It is a beautiful day. This is Travis from Expert Advisor Reviews and Trade with Travis on Trading View. And thanks for everybody being able to watch. Thanks for everybody that will end up watching in the replay and in the um, what we end up doing at the end, being able to take a look at it from a nightcap perspective. But I hope everybody's doing very well. Let's go ahead and get through the disclaimer. Then after that, we'll go from there. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that trading involves risk being able to make money, also involves risk being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind and understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. So with that being said, as we end up going through and kind of getting everything else done, I want to make sure that everybody is good to go when it comes down to what's happening for the economic calendar. I have 9/11 right now, currently at this particular point in time. If you are on here live, please make sure that you end up this dropping in a hey. It's always good to be able to talk to everyone that's out there in the community that is watching this. Once again, for the people that end up watching this afterwards, in which it'll end up being on Expert Advisor Reviews and on Trade with Travis on YouTube, y'all can be able to take a look at it and just kind of get or kind of be able to ask your questions, do everything else like that from there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go into it. Today, there's really no news. President Lagarde is going to end up speaking, and I think that's the only chart from a United States dollar perspective that's actually moving since that speech earlier this morning, or since the speech has happened. I'm sorry. The speech will end up happening a little bit later on today. There's 48 minutes before new home sales come out. Once she ends up saying her piece, whatever else that's going to end up happening, I think that's going to end up making the market move in some type of direction. We just got to see how that's going to end up going. That will affect the automation systems and everything else that we have when it comes down to trading. So we know that. Let's go ahead, and I want to start off by taking a look at what's happening with the indexes. Obviously, because at 9:30, that's when the indexes will end up getting started for their overall trading or start being able to have their bigger push. Let's see, close this down real quick. As we end up taking a look at this US30, we end up talking about that we wasn't necessarily interested in being able to get into it anymore unless we end up having opportunities. So when we end up getting a counter trend line break and pushing all the way up to 39,217, that market has completed its overall move already. And if you take a look at it from a weekly perspective, the weekly de-extension is over with, which means that this market is going to end up being primed to move to the downside at some particular point in time. So it makes it kind of hard for you to sit up there and say, I'm interested in being able to take the trade, but I'm also interested in being able to buy and just continue buying without having some type of quick get in, get out mentality. So if you are going to end up taking a look at this, you need to look at it from a scalping perspective and be able to trade it that way. If you look at it any other way, I think that you'll probably end up struggling a little bit when it comes down to being able to see quick profits, whatever else may end up being the case. So when we take a look at this from a 2-hour perspective, once again, we talked about how that de-extension short term ended up being hit, which is at 39,217. That was the last field that ended up pushing up to the upside. Now, because we do have a new fractal high, which is this candlestick right here, we can go ahead and place in our next field and be able to talk about what the movement is going to end up being on that one. Currently, right now, the market has bounced off of the 23.6 retracement, and because of that, that also means that based off of this movement, we probably have a little bit more of a retracement that may end up happening. But the one thing that's kind of going against what I'm talking about is that we can see that the stochastic is clearly in the buy zone. So we got to pay attention to it a little bit more. We do see a crossover. There is somewhat of a counter trend line break, and this market is starting to move. So I don't know if we're going to end up seeing a consolidated breakout or if we're going to end up seeing a continuation of this move all the way up to 39,867, which will end up being a new spot. Now, keep this in mind, and I just want to forewarn this for everyone that's watching this or will be watching this. If you end up taking a look at this overall trade, if it only relies on being able to retrace to the 23.6, then typically what you end up seeing is you'll have a little bit of resistance right around the 127. So it may end up getting up to 39,646 or somewhere around that area, 39,650, somewhere around that area. But if it does, unless there's some type of huge news that's going to end up pushing the market when it comes down to that, maybe earnings reports or anything else like that, it's going to end up struggling to really get past that overall number. So I would say if you're looking at this from a 3 profit perspective points and being able to get out, because remember, we're basically hitting all-time highs when we do this. The first one will end up being right where the market ended up having its resistance right around 39,260. If you want to say 217, which was the previous take profit number that we end up calling out, you could be able to use that. Or you can sit up there and say somewhere around 39,650, 39,600 if you want to be safe. Will end up being a nice possible take profit 2, and then take profit 3 will end up being the full movement when it comes down to this. Now, I know when people end up looking at it that way and talking about 3 different take profit points and all other stuff, that's great. Obviously, you want to be able to have, you want to make sure that you end up having strong equity management when you end up doing that as well. So that's going to end up being points that you're going to end up looking and trying to be able to get out at. Also understand that this market has reached all-time highs, and on the weekly, it's still, I believe, in the sell zone. So short term. Keep that mindset. Get what you can, and then after that, protect yourself when it comes down to making sure that you end up having profits. Okay, cool. So we're done with that. Let's talk about NAS100. We'll get into that just briefly, and we know that we still are looking at U.S. based pairs for its overall movement, so I pay attention to those a little bit more as well. NAS100. We were looking for sales, and we were talking about 2 separate movements last week. Last week, early, remember we end up looking at this triangle that end up giving us this rising wedge. We end up getting into it on the sale, and then after that, closing out. Or matter of fact, I'm sorry, I end up calling this one. This was the one that last week, right when news happened, we were looking at other charts and we never made our trigger to get in. But it did hit our take profit point, which is good for everyone else to actually end up doing it. But we can see that the market end up basically retracing at this particular point. Now, the thing that we are paying attention to would be if the market is going to continue to fall. Now, we need to go back into our weekly perspective and kind of understand what the direction actually is. So let's go back and take a look at that real quick. Weekly, currently right now, the same thing that we end up talking about with US30 and how it ended up having a weak retracement, meaning that it ended up getting up to the 120, meaning that it only retraced down 23% of its overall move. And then after that, having some struggles at the 127 is actually starting to happen right now. We look at it over the course of the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks now. We've seen that the market, or we've seen that sellers got heavily involved with being able to push the market down at this point because they don't perceive that the value is ready to be able to break out of that overall area. There's my arrow mark down. We can see for the 3rd week now that has happened right there. Now, market has broken above these overall high prices and everything else like that. The question is 18,072 still going to end up being one of those points to where the price is going to end up rejecting off of it, and then after that, ultimately falling down. The weekly is in the sell zone, which is basically saying that there will end up being some falling, and it's starting to go inside of the stochastic, so that'll be something to pay attention to. But if we end up taking a look at the daily and everything else like that, we truly don't, currently right now, Friday, we end up having a retracement of this move, which was that candlestick that we end up looking at, that close of the candlestick, and currently right now, we're seeing that this market is kind of in the middle of it. So, I'm expecting that this market will fall. I'm not interested in being able to buy at this point anymore. So my thought process will be, okay, well, when is the market going to end up falling? What's the highest price that we can be able to get? If you're looking at that for trying to be able to get value, then you will actually want this price to be able to push back up to 18,072 and start looking at being able to place sales and protecting your stop, but you can be able to keep it kind of tight when it comes down to that movement. I will almost go and be able to say you could probably go maybe at the halfway point or probably right around 18,200 and know that you're probably safe if this market does reject. And then after that, you could play it back down to the position where we thought that the market was going to eventually go, which would be 16,700. I'm sorry, 16,000. Well, we could say 17,000, which means that it'll be a 900 point drop before this market would eventually end up going back up. So that's what I'm paying attention to. I'm actually kind of interested in this market to continue to keep on moving up to the upside, and if we can be able to get that, and then after that, it rejects once again right around these points that we end up talking about for this overall resistance that's being created, which is basically 18,040. Anywhere around that area, the 18,020 to the 18,050 area, will end up being a great area where I would like to be able to possibly look at being able to sell. And if we can be able to get that, then you got a long-term swing trade that you can be able to get in and kind of stay in for a while when it comes down to this movement. We got the weekly sitting up there talking about. We definitely had a weekly sitting up there being in our wheelhouse, saying that it is looking to be able to sell off towards the stochastics. But I'd like to be able to see that. I would like to see the market fall. I would like to be able to get in the area of 18,000. I'm gonna write this down. Looking to sell would be nice. So I put today's date. Let's do that. 2/26. Looking to sell at the resistance of this consolidation around 18,020 to 18,050. Stop loss would be placed 100 to 150 points away from the U-turn. And take profit at 17,000. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense for everybody. That will be my thought process with being able to see this. 18,050, 18,020, somewhere around that area. If you can be able to get that sale, then that's where I'm looking at being able to get. I would love to be able to get it, catch it somewhere right around there. Okay, so that's going to be what I'm looking at going into 9:30. See if the market's going to pop up into that area, and then after that, looking at being able to fall. Hopefully that makes sense for everyone. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead and get into our big three. If you're not familiar with the big three, that's United States dollar index, that's oil, that's gold. The reason why we look at those is because it kind of correlates with what's happening with the U.S.-based pairs. Now, last time we ended up talking about the United States dollar index, in which we've been talking about that previously, we end up seeing that this market ended up creating a triangle, breaking out of the triangle, and currently right now is retesting that triangle, and it's looking like it's making a falling wedge when it's doing it when it comes down to the overall candlesticks. I'm going to dive deeper into the 2 hour and kind of explain this. The last time we ended up taking a look at this for being able to take a trade, we wanted to see if the market was going to fall down to the support, and then after that bounce up and then break out. Our first take profit level was at 13,040, in which it hit, and then after that it fell back inside. Our long-term target is at 13,130. And we're getting better opportunities to be able to get in when it comes down to value, but we just have to see that this market will end up going down and hitting support. The last time we talked about this, it was somewhere around there, so you did get an opportunity to be able to catch that support right around 13,000 if you end up catching that trade before. But now, as we end up taking a look at it again, I don't know if it's going to end up giving a bounce back because of how strong this candlestick was. The next area that I'll end up paying attention to, if you want to get in and be sure, would be the breakout, maybe a little bit of a retest, and then after that breakout again. All right, so if you want to catch it at the breakout, there'll be a great spot that'll probably end up being a B grade spot. The A grade spot for us being able to get in has already happened, which was right here. So we still have great value if you could be able to get in. Your stop loss would just have to be below the overall swing low where the market end up having its bounce at. So United States dollar index is primed for a break. I think it's going to end up being a break to the upside just based off of this formation of candlesticks. But it would not truly be bearish until the market ended up breaking below 12,000 to 12,009, 12,000, let's say 12,085. 12,085. The reason why I say that is because that's the low of the previous consolidation that it was in. Okay, so I just think that this is a long-term retest, giving people opportunity, allowing people to be able to get into the market, and then after that, seeing the market kind of pop up to the upside. So that's the reason why I think that the market has been slow on the United States dollar index. There's going to be some type of movement, but I think it'll probably end up being this week. But it's going to have to. We'll still have to be patient about it. Okay. Let's talk about oil. Oil still not interested in being able to make a trade off of, not yet. Still hasn't broken out of this area, but I still want to talk about it. I would not look at being able to take a trade on gold unless the market ends up breaking out of 79.50 or being able to break below 68.70. Now, if you're thinking that oil is going to end up going up because we're getting more into the spring months, that's going to end up happening, then I will wait for the market to be able to hit support, and then after that, look at being able to buy again. Because when you're playing the consolidation game, it's just buy support, sell a resistance. Everywhere else does not matter. And currently, right now, we're at an everywhere else does not matter area. Okay, so not interested in being able to do nothing on that one. Let's take a look at gold. Gold, we was looking for a sale. I expected the price to be able to go up to 2034. That was some type of buy trade that we ended up getting based off a counter trend line break that ended up happening and finishing off on Friday. And then after that, I was looking for a counter trend line break for this market to be able to move. Matter of fact, I know what it is. Looking for, ended up buying it up to the midway point. Was looking at being able to sell it back down to where we thought it was going to end up going, which would end up being at 1937 for the overall move to the downside. Currently, right now, it has made that rejection, which is showing that there's United States dollar strength, which is tying into what we end up seeing with the United States dollar index for the breaking out of that triangle, which means that the United States dollar may end up being strong going into this week and going into the beginning of next month for its overall movement. March is always a weird month when it comes down to movement. Either you're going to end up getting very good rallies and bullish movement, or you're just going to end up getting some type of consolidation that may end up happening. What's up, Casey? Hope everything's going well with you. So we may end up getting that. 15 minute. Yeah, that's prime for a sale. That's definitely prime for a sale. And I think we have confirmation of being able to get into it right now as well. Yeah, let's do that. I'm looking at I'm looking at being able to take a sale on gold late, but looking at being able to take a sale on gold. Stop loss will end up being above the swing high, which is at 2042. Let's say 2045, just to be 2043, just to be safe. That'll end up being the set. That'll end up being the stop loss. Take profit on this one. You can look at three different spots. I give y'all three different thought processes. The first one basically end up being at the B. That will end up being right around 2015. That will end up being the first take profit level. The reason why you're doing that is because that basically is the overall low. It'll just retest the low when it comes down to that point. Second level will end up being at 2000. That is the last portion where the market ended up having its breakout and its retest point. And then after that, the third one that we end up having, if you want to route it all the way down here, we end up being the lows at this point, right around 1990. Now, do I expect that it's going to go all of that low? No, but let's go ahead and take this trade. Looking at being able to sell. Let's see. Everybody, give me a second. Plug this into my trades real quick. Jeez, I got close and didn't touch. I thought my automation systems ended up catching a sale. I was waiting for it. Godly, it didn't happen. Okay, I'm in. Okay, cool. So I got 2027 31, I believe. So that goes our first sale for today. Looking at gold selling down to the downside. I ended up placing my take profit at 2017. Just want to get out, get this first little portion of this move, and then after that, we'll see what happens a little bit later on. But I do think that the market's going to end up falling. I can see that the market is falling already for the United States dollar favor on my automation systems. I'm just mad that none of them end up triggering in this trade that end up having this big drop that end up happening. Typically, what happens is that the market closes um, above a certain area, um, then it will end up taking a trade on that next candlestick, and it didn't reach up to the level that my system thought it would go up to. So that's unfortunate because I wish I would have caught that move, but the system's being patient. But yeah, here we go. Sale is going down. This is the first trade of the day. I do like the move. I think the setup is clean, and the market ended up pushing back up to the middle of that previous consolidation triangle that we end up having. So this is giving us a better, a cleaner view that this market may continue to keep on falling. Now, going back to what we end up saying with NAS100, looking at this market, it's 9:30 right now, pushing up towards this level. Love to be able to catch a sale right around this level. I will not enter until I end up getting confirmation of a counter trend line break, or some type of U-turn. But that would be my optimal spot, or where I would like to be able to get in. Talked about this a little bit earlier. Would like to be able to make the sale up here. I'm going to put this up and create this as an example. Let's say, market ends up pushing up here, take profit, we end up being down here. Stop loss, let's say we end up catching at 1845, it end up being at 145, or wherever the U-turn is. Whatever the U-turn is, it'll be 100 points above that, and trying to go after that reward with a take profit point of 17,670 as another area of being able to get out. That is what I'm looking for right there. It has to be able to break that counter trend line break. And, it has to be able to hold inside of this consolidation box wherever the U-turn is. Ends up happening, you place a stop loss 100 points from that U-turn. Okay, so there we go. So there goes the ideas for today. Whoever everybody end up liking, I'm gonna post these out quickly so everybody can be able to see them and be able to use them for its overall ideas. And then after that, we end up going from there. But hopefully everybody ends up having a good day of trading. Make sure that you end up clicking on that share button. Make sure that you end up subscribing to Trade with Travis on YouTube and Expert Advisor Reviews on YouTube. Look out for all of the stuff that we end up having come out as well, including all of our automation systems that we end up showing and talking about as well. Everybody, like always, plan your trade, trade your plan. I see each and every one of y'all in the next video. Take it easy.